welcome to another episode of the Area 210 podcast. I'm your host, Joe Garcia. Today I'm going to be joined by the one and only Paul Garcia. Yeah, he's now in charge of his own podcast now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Paul?
Yeah, I got a newsletter called the Spot Up Shot. So you can, go to spotupshot.com. That's where I do all my Spurs writing these days. And then, of course, I have the Spot Up Pod where I produce the podcast and also videos as well.
And there you go. Make sure you go and follow Paul. He's always a good follow, very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to the numbers, stats, and also learning what it takes to make trades via, the cap, the salary cap. He'll let you know exactly how everything works out, because I know Spurs fans at times like to get cute with the trade machine, but salary's got to match. That's the magic number right there, Paul.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, come February, that's when all those questions start coming in. I have to start getting my cap sheets ready because then, all these trade scenarios and trade questions come into play.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in and talk about Devin Vassell. Devin Vassell made his triumphant, emphatic return on Saturday, November the 9th, against the Utah Jazz, which had only won one game. Now they have 2 wins under their belt, one of those coming against the San Antonio Spurs. Final score was 111 to 110, but the game really wasn't that close. It was just a last-second three-pointer made by one Devin Vassell as time expired to go ahead and make the score look a little bit better than it was. But a lot of good things that you saw out of this loss here when Devin did return to the team, because you saw more fluidity to the offense. You saw Wemby kind of, regress back to him being Wemby and not so much having to be the focal point when it comes to being that offensive weapon that the Spurs were forcing him to be because they had nobody else. Devin Vassell, I think, alleviates a lot of that pressure, helps space the floor a lot better. You saw a lot more movement out of the Spurs offense, sharing the ball. They just looked a lot better offensively. Unfortunately, they just didn't get the defensive stops they needed to win the game. But overall, it was great to see Devin back in form. And then the Spurs went ahead and played the Kings yesterday. They winded up beating the Kings. Final score 116-96. I mean, this was a blowout, which Spurs fans, were very excited about. And you had a lot of good things come out of this game. The Spurs actually did some, soul searching here, and they were able to cull the turnover problem that plagued them in the first quarter. They said that they had a talk with Mitch Johnson at the half, and he kind of brought that up and told them they needed to clean up certain aspects of their game. And they did listen and respond, and they didn't have a lot of turnovers in that second half. But nonetheless, Wemby looked like Wemby again. He had 24 points on the night, which if you're a Spurs fan, you love, not 24, 34 points on the night, which you love to see.
Season high.
Season high at that. And he had 14 rebounds as well. You also had a strong showing there from the rookie, Stephon Castle, played 31 minutes, added 10 points on the night. And Devin Vassell, he played 21 minutes. He had 12 points. But again, the offense just looks so much better when Devin Vassell's out there on the court. In these 2 games, Paul, what have you seen out of Devin, and how has he actually helped this team get better offensively?
Man, just, for a team that's in the bottom 10 offensively, that's one of the big knocks on the Spurs this season is offense is their issue. It's not defense. Defense, they're a really good ball club. They're a top 10 team there. So it's been the offense, like you mentioned, turnovers have been a big issue, but also just making shots. And that's something that he was come in and do right away. It looks so effortless for him to get to his spots in the mid range or to shoot threes, even if there's like a hand in his face, and he just puts them with ease. And that's something that this team was missing because, like you said, early on teams have just been triple teaming, double teaming Wemby nonstop. And so, he's settled for 3-pointers and, it's been hard for him to work inside. And so now that's going to alleviate some of that pressure on Wemby whenever the lineup gets back in full tact here, with Vassell once he actually gets back into the starting lineup. So right now, Devin's been great in his few minutes that he's been out on the floor. He is on a minutes restriction. So the team does have him coming off the bench right now. And for now, that's kind of his role for the foreseeable future. We'll see whenever he ends up, going back into the starting lineup. But, he comes in spurts. And so maybe like a quarter or two, he might be a little bit quiet, but then he can just go on his own run, just like the game against the Kings where, it was a close game and then all of a sudden Vassell goes on his own 7-0 run where he makes a 3, gets fouled. So that's 4 points. Then he makes another 3. That's 7 in the first game he came back. In the second quarter, he dropped like 10 points in a quarter by himself. And so that's just what you see, a very high volume, highly efficient scorers. What the Spurs are bringing back onto the team, and even Chris Paul's kind of just been amazed by Devin Vassell. He mentioned after the Kings game how he's watched Vassell and played against him, but he's actually never been on the court in a game with him, and now he's finally getting to see what it's like, and he's like, wow, he's going to be a huge addition for the team.
Yeah, again, a lot of good things that came out of this game against the Kings. You hope that that momentum will carry over into their next game, which they're going to have tomorrow night here against the Wizards, which are, again, they're a team that's kind of a trap game. They've only won 2 games on the season. They've lost 7. Spurs can't just be lackadaisical with these teams because they're hungry for wins as well. So they're going to go out and play hard, even though they might not have the talent that some other teams have. They're still going to want to get a win. So the Spurs cannot, go ahead and just fall asleep on this team. You got to go out there, play hard and win, and don't make a lot of mistakes and be your own worst enemy. And I think that's what we're seeing out of this team early on. In the absence of one Devin Vassell, they were their own worst enemy because of all the turnovers that they committed there. And again, not letting Wemby get to his sweet spots out there on the court. Teams have already scouted him very well. They were making him basically be a perimeter jump shooter, going out beyond the arc, trying to shoot beyond the top of the key. It wasn't very comfortable. You could see that he was out of sync. He was not feeling it. And Spurs fans were very critical, including myself, saying, what's wrong with Wemby? Why is he not playing, like a dominant big man? I think now that we're seeing the return of Vassell, like we had said, we're going to see a little bit more out of Wemby. He's going to start coming into his own, get more comfortable, and hopefully that'll translate into him putting up some big numbers and being that generational player that everybody's coining him as set out to be. I think he's going to be an all-star this year, but we'll see if he can put up these numbers that he put up yesterday. There's no doubt that fans are going to want to vote him in. But it begs the question, though. Devin Vassell in his return, like you said, coming off the bench. I don't know. Is that going to be a thing? I mean, he plays great coming off the bench with that second unit. And the good thing is you kind of have him in between the starters and that bench unit. And having him play out there on the court with some of the starters at that time, it just seems like that's just the missing piece to bring that fluidity to the offense. I know Jeremy Sohan's out right now, and they do have Stephon Castle out there, which is looking really good in his rookie season. I got to admit, the kid looks legit, playing great on defense and offense. I like his high energy. He has good motor, good IQ as well, basketball IQ. Still little nuances that he needs to work on, but overall, great player, great addition to the team. But what do you think about Devin Vassell? Do you think that at some point in time they're going to reinsert him into the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think as soon as the minutes restriction gets lifted, they're going to let him go back to the starting lineup. And so that begs the question of whenever that does happen, I think maybe 3 to 5 games is maybe all he'll come off the bench for. But once that does happen, the question is, who comes out, who goes to the bench now? Because again, Julian Champagnie, I guess we thought was getting Vassell's spot, since Vassell started the season on the injured list. But Champagnie's been great for the Spurs in terms of his outside presence, his shooting level, his ability to play defense and guard different perimeter players. Castle has definitely gone up a level now that he's a starter right now, taking the place of Jeremy Sohan in the starting lineup. And you've seen his scoring numbers kind of increase game by game. Of course, he brings that on-ball defense as well. And then so that's kind of the question is like whatever Vassell does eventually come back to the starting lineup, who's going to get go to the bench. That's one of the key questions. And I think it more so depends on the minutes restriction for Vassell. Once that's lifted, I think he'll definitely be a starter because that's kind of what Pop had set for him. He had basically said had he been healthy, he would have been one of the starters for the team.
Yeah, so I think Spurs fans, they get excited, hey, we have a good player here and Champagnie, which has been surprising this season. I got to admit, you can tell that he definitely worked on his shot in the offseason, and it's actually paying off. As you can see, that he's able to knock down some open jumpers, knock down a 3 here and there. But overall, he has a great offensive prowess that he brings to the team out there on the court, which the team definitely needs right now because they're not very good when it comes to offense. They're almost one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to putting up points. When it comes to the defense, as you have pointed out, they are a top 10 team. I think right now, currently, the last time I saw the stats, which was earlier this evening, they were like 10 out of 11. They were the 10th team right now out of 30 teams in the NBA right now. So that shows you that the Spurs are a lot better than they were last season, because last season, I believe they were bottom tier. They were like 28 or something like that in the league.
Definitely about bottom 10. They were 22nd in the year. And
There you go.
that's why it's important to have a good defense this year, because remember, that was one of the knocks on Wemby not getting defensive player of the year, was that, he's got all these crazy stats and everything. And you can tell by watching the eye test that he scares everybody out there defensively. But then people gave it to Gobert because Gobert was on a top 10 defense. And so sure enough, now there's going to be no arguments against Wemby this year for defensive player of the year if the Spurs can maintain that top 10 level defense. And I think they can, because they definitely have the players to do that this year.
Yeah, the thing with Wemby too is that Wemby's averaging 4 blocks per game, which is an uptick
Oh yeah.
compared to his rookie season. I mean, as long as he keeps on playing like that and he's averaging 4 blocks per game and he's just being Wemby out there disrupting the other opposing team's offense, I think he makes a strong case for himself to earn not rookie, but defensive player of the year this upcoming season. They didn't want to give it to him last year because they didn't want a rookie to win it, but hopefully this
Yeah.
season he'll be able to win that. We're looking forward to seeing the team at full strength. Spurs fans still have not seen that due to injuries. Devin Vassell comes back in, and Jeremy Sohan goes out due to having surgery on a fractured thumb. Timetable on that's probably going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. They were trying to lean closer on a 6-week timetable, but then you got to factor in rehab. So I'm still thinking that it's going to be about maybe 8 weeks, 7 weeks that they'll go ahead and bring him in. Even at that, he's going to play on a minutes restriction when he does return. And, he's going to still have a little bit of rust. He's going to have to get back into NBA shape again, because he hasn't been out there for a little bit of time. I'm sure he's still doing cardio and whatnot, but it's different when you're just sitting there versus when you're
Yeah.
playing in the context of a real game. The other player that's been out because of injury too has been Trey Jones. Trey Jones is a great point guard when you have him coming off the bench to lead that second unit and to help the flow of the offense, kind of facilitate where it needs to go and be the facilitator of the ball. You can tell that's a little bit lacking in that second unit, but the second unit still has been playing really good this season. I even like the play out of one Keldon Johnson. So what do you think, though? What are your thoughts when the Spurs are at full strength? Will this team have what it takes to be more competitive against some of the better teams in the NBA?
Yeah, I think so. All you need is a good defense. And if you have that, that's a foundation to being in every game. Like I said, their shooting kind of comes and goes. Right now, they're on a hot streak shooting the ball, but early on, the first 5 to 7 games, they were really struggling to shoot the outside shot. Again, you can never, quite bank on your shots going in, but if you play good defense and you take care of the ball, you're going to be in every single game, and that's what we've seen when they've beaten some of these better teams in the league so far this year. So I think that when they have full strength again, they're going to get better defensively, and I think that's going to keep them in a lot of games. And Chris Paul mentioned how one of the mindsets he's trying to change for this young team is like going into every game believing that they can get a win, every single night. And I think the calendar is going to favor them in terms of November. They have a little bit of an easier schedule where they can pick up some wins and get some confidence. And then maybe by the time December gets here, January, here comes Sohan and some of these other players that are injured back into the lineup.
Yeah, so you got that to look forward to, Spurs fans. When the team it gets 100% healthy, I think they're going to start making some noise. I don't think that they're really going to be at 100% until maybe near the end of December, where we'll really see what they're kind of capable of, and that they're starting better than they did last year. Last year they only won a handful of games to start
Yeah.
off the season, and then they went on that 18-game losing streak. This year they've been a lot more competitive out there on the court. Unfortunately, they've been turning the ball over, and that's what's been detrimental to them not being able to pull out more wins this in the beginning of the season. But now that they're hopefully going to clean that up, we're going to see them, translate that into more victories here down the road. So one of the things I wanted to talk about here is kind of a sensitive issue that's been going on. You have factions of Spurs fans here who are at odds with each other because they believe that Coach Pop owes them an explanation, or the team owes them an explanation on what's ailing Coach Pop. And to me, that's kind of ridiculous because Coach Pop, as a human, has earned the right to dictate what he wants to say to the media. And you have HIPAA laws that you have to abide to as well. When somebody is sick, it's up to them if they want to go ahead and come out and say what's wrong with them. Even when Coach Pop returns and the media is going to ask him, "What was wrong with you?" He doesn't owe them an explanation at all.
No.
He can just say, "I was sick. I'm better. I'm back." That's it. If he wants to come out
Yeah.
and say that, that's fine. If he wants to reveal what was wrong with him, that's up to him. But I don't really think he owes an explanation at this point. The only thing I think Spurs fans have to do at this time, at this juncture, is just wish him well, wish him a speedy recovery, but more importantly, be appreciative of him when he comes back on the court and you see him out there, because God only knows what he's been going through, because they said this was the first time that he had some ailment. So you don't know what he's been personally struggling with behind the scenes. So if you see him out there, just appreciate that you're seeing Coach Pop out there on the court. Give him his roses because you never know. This could be his last season here coaching the team. Thoughts on Coach Pop? I mean, you wish him well?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was actually a conversation that the fans are upset about him having to share his information. I didn't. I mean, luckily, I don't tune into a lot of the fan discussions these days. But no. I mean, I'm totally okay with him. The Spurs not now disclosing his health issue again. That's a private matter. Pop has always been a very private person, in terms of his personal life. So I mean, why would he just reveal his medical issue right now? And yeah, I'm just everybody's just hoping for a good long recovery for him, and he gets back as soon as possible. So yeah, I think that if he needs however long he needs to be away, that's fine. I mean, he could be private and address whatever medical need that is right now. And the team looks like they're doing pretty well, responding to assistant coach Mitch Johnson right now in the interim.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was leading into. We're not going to dwell on Coach Bob. Just wish him well, speedy recovery. Appreciate him when he comes back. But Mitch Johnson is in his absence because the team did say something that I thought was very saying here. They said Coach Pop was going to be out indefinitely, which just is a nice way of saying he'll be out for a long period of time. He'll return maybe at some juncture, but expect him to be out for a while. So Mitch Johnson stepped in here. Spurs fans really didn't know what to expect out of him because they haven't really seen him coach the team, on his own without Coach Pop. But I got to say, in this small sample size that we've seen out of him, I think he's done a very commendable job in, coaching this team despite the injuries that they have out there. It looks like he's really getting into the players, which I enjoy, trying to keep them honest out there on the court, calling them out, telling them they need to clean up certain aspects of the game to get a win. I like that fire that I'm seeing out of him. And the thing is that he's young, so he can really identify with these players. And I think they're responding to him right now in the absence of one Coach Pop because they're probably trying to go play hard for Pop to get a win every time they're out there. But also they're going ahead and playing good for Mitch Johnson. What have you thought about him?
No, I thought he's done a great job. These last few games since he's been the head coach or the acting head coach, should we say? I think it was since the Minnesota game was the first night that Pop missed that first game, but they've done pretty good. And it's just funny for me. I have a personal story just about Mitch Johnson. Back when he was the Austin Spurs head coach, I remember going to games and covering them in person. I was sitting in the media row, and then I kind of knew who he was. And then I was like watching this one Spurs play, and it's one of their basic foundational plays called motion weak. And I was just trying to see, is that really the play that they're running? Over and over, I was kind of drawing it on paper and kind of just. And then finally, he was sitting next to me, but we hadn't talked all game. And then I finally got kind of like, hey man, I know you work for the Austin Spurs. Is this really how this play works? He kind of like, yeah, we're just like it's kind of funny just to share that kind of a moment. And then now here he is. He's actually interim coach for the Spurs. How he's kind of moved up in their ranks, starting in Austin and now moving up to the assistant coach role. And I think, like you said, I mean, they've been competitive. I think what also helps him as a young coach is that he has two veteran players on this team, in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, where they're going to set the tone as well alongside Coach Mitch Johnson. So he kind of gets out of line or crosses the line there with him. And then I think one of the things I really like from what I've seen from him offensively is his ATOs. Those plays kind of out of timeouts. I mean, he's done some really crafty work, especially with like Victor doing these passes because he's drawing all the attention, and Stephon Castle making these cuts that teams don't anticipate. So I think that some of the play calling has also got a little bit more interesting too with Mitch Johnson there right now too.
And I think some of the lineup changes too that he's done, because we hadn't seen a lot of Mamu out there, and he knows that Mamu and Wemby are friends, and they have some chemistry out there on the court. And even though he puts him out there in small sample sizes, it is fun to watch Mamu alongside Wemby and have them, display that team chemistry that they have so well. And Spurs fans love Mamu. He's a fan favorite, and it's probably because Mamu comes off the bench. He brings the energy. He brings a high motor, and everybody just loves him because he just looks like he's just out there having a blast, shooting a three, getting a rebound, getting on the ground, trying to, get the 50-50 balls. How can you not like the energy out of this guy? I bet you everybody in the locker room loves some Mamu. I mean, what have you thought about some of those lineup changes there?
No, that's one thing you give him credit there, like you just said. It's basically it's either Mamu or Zach Collins, and that's what Coach Mitch Johnson sees. If Zach's not, even though Zach's shooting the three better this year, he's shooting I think like at 54% or something like that. He doesn't take enough of them. And Mamu is a quick fire 3-point shooter, like you said, pick and pop action, spotting up action. He had chemistry with Wemby, cutting off the ball, and so I think that's what Coach Johnson sees. That if it's not Zach's night, he's really not having quite that kind of a game. Right away, he'll insert Mamu in there. He hasn't play either at the 4 or the backup 5. And so, yeah, he's just been more creative that way. Also in crunch time, he's kind of changed up some of the lineups as well during those close games as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that we'll talk about as well as we kind of transition to the tail end here of the show is we're going to talk about the in-season tourney. It kicks off for the San Antonio Spurs against the Lakers, and I believe that's going to be the Friday game. So that's going to be the
Yes.
start of their in-season tourney. And I've already seen some of the courts. They were showing them tonight. And I got to say they're eye-catching. They look cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the Spurs in-season tourney court for myself. I'm going to see it on the TV because I'm not going to be able to attend the game because I'm working. But what do you think about the Spurs? You think they're going to make some noise in the in-season tourney?
I forgot who they're playing. I know they have the Lakers, of course, on Friday, and then who do they got? OKC. They got Utah. Who's the other team that's in their bracket in their division? I forgot. I had done the schedule early on in the year.
Yeah.
Who is it?
They're in division.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they're in division. I remember writing about it when the schedule came out in the summer, but against OKC, that's going to be a tough one. I think the Lakers, they can definitely compete with. Again, they're going to have a good chance to get some wins against the Lakers in those games. Also against the Jazz. I think the Jazz are in their bracket. I forgot who the 4th team is, but again, definitely OKC is definitely a monster right now. But again, they did lose Chet, unfortunately, due to injury, and he was off to a great start to the season. But yeah, the Spurs, I mean, I forgot how you qualify to the next round. Again, I haven't reread the rules since it came out the schedule, but yeah, they should be competitive in that in-season tournament.
Yeah, hopefully they are competitive because I know Spurs fans get up for that too. Because they have pictures and the videos of the Lakers acting like they had won the NBA Finals. Celebrating them like
Yeah,
it's a little tourney that they have in the beginning of the season here. It's basically for funsies. So bragging rights.
yeah.
It's not like like the MLB. Like if you go ahead and have your All-Star game or whatever, it means something for you if you go into the playoffs. So the in-season tourney is not much to do about nothing other than you want it. Bragging rights basically. But it's still fun for the team nonetheless. I did see something here as well. I saw that there's a new commercial that came out of NBA 2K with Wemby in there. So I was like, huh, how
Mm.
about that? I just saw that it got released, earlier in the day. So I was just taking a look at that. I know that they're also releasing some other um, HEB commercials, which I know you've probably seen the one with Wemby and the aliens and all that. So they got some more coming through the pipe here. So that's going to be fun. Always fun for the Spurs fans, to see the I guess Wemby or the Spurs in some capacity in a commercial, whether it be HEB or like NBA 2K. They always like to see Wemby get some love out there because he's representing the city and the team. So those are just some little fun tidbits for Spurs fans to look forward to here as the season unfolds. But I did see they showed like the trophy too for the in-season tourney. They were just showing the way the trophy
Mhm.
looks and whatnot. I thought it was all right. It kind of reminiscent though, the way the design is and all that. I got to say, of like an NBA 2K trophy that you would see in the context of the video
Yeah.
game itself. So it's all for fun. But I know they're going to have some new merchandise that is going to be coming out here soon. They still have not revealed their city edition jerseys, which it's no big
Mm.
secret. It's kind of going to be a revamp of what they've had last year with a little bit more of a color added to it. But again, the Spurs are just being so secretive. They keep teasing that it's coming soon, but they still haven't dropped. And I know Spurs fans are wanting the official, digs. They want to, hey, what does this look like? What is it going to officially be? Because they're going to come out and they're going to have the whole commercial and whatnot. And they've already had some of the jersey leaks happen, and you've seen them at Dick's Sporting Goods Academy and all that. They kind of jumped the gun and put them out there, but it hasn't been officially, announced by the Spurs as of yet. You're looking forward to the new jerseys. You're like, I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't really care. I mean, I just that part of me hasn't really. I mean, it'll be. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really put too much into this.
Yeah. Another little thing, a little fan thing that they're doing is the Spurs are actually doing like an ugly sweater design contest. So
Okay.
they're putting together an ugly sweater design contest, and I guess the ugliest sweaters will be made into like some type of a sweater or t-shirt or something that they'll probably have on sale at the arena sometime in the near future. That's always fun as well. I think they're doing that with the players as well. So they'll have some new merch coming out around Christmas time. But I am looking forward to. I got to say, now that we're getting in the months here, of the season happening, because we haven't gone through Thanksgiving yet. Once Thanksgiving's over, then it's the official holiday season. We're gonna actually see the Spurs play on Christmas Day. So that's a
Oh
thing.
yeah, against the Knicks. That's going to be a fun game. Oh yeah.
That hasn't happened for quite some time. So as a Spurs fan, you're gonna be excited to see that. You wake up, open your presents, and then your present is you get to see the Spurs playing out there on the TV, on Christmas Day. So something to look forward to as we start getting closer and closer to the season of Christmas and all that. But I gotta ask you a question, Paul. So as we bring the show to a close
Mhm.
here, it is Thanksgiving. What's your go-to dish when it comes to eating? Like, we're going to be coming on the eve already here of Thanksgiving here pretty soon. What is the dish that you have to have all the time at Thanksgiving?
Like, could I name the multiple foods that go on my plate, or just that one
No, like the
specific thing
one
that
dish,
has to
the
be?
one dish that you absolutely have to
Ah,
have
man,
on the table.
good mashed potatoes and gravy. They have to be
Really?
delicious, and yeah, I
What,
can just have a
what,
field day with those. Just yeah, has to
what
have
kind of
mashed
gravy are we
potatoes and
talking?
gravy.
Is it the gravy, like the
Uh,
turkey, the brown gravy, or the white one?
the brown gravy, yeah, or
Okay,
sometimes the white one, but mainly the brown gravy, yeah, on
that's your
Thanksgiving.
go-to. You
But
love you some mashed
yeah,
potatoes.
I have to, yeah, and then get the rolls and dip them in. Yes, oh
Yeah,
man, you
now we're
got me salivating already.
oh,
It's still like 2 weeks away, man. Like, come on, yeah,
you're having already dreams of turkey dinner, man.
yes, yeah. Oh, I cannot wait. Yeah, for 2 weeks from
Yeah.
now, it's gonna be
I
awesome.
I like the pies too, man. My thing is like I like
Oh
making
yes,
pies
pies.
with my
Hmm.
my daughter because it's our tradition to do that kind of stuff. And again, I like the mashed potatoes too, but I like me a good turkey as well. A little bit of a
Yeah.
dressing, on the side. I like to have some cranberry sauce, or those cranberries themselves. And I like it. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like that. And then what I do is cream corn as well, and then just take me a
Oh
little
yeah.
nap on the sofa somewhere.
Oh yeah. And then wake up after an hour or two, and then could go back for seconds. That's
Go back for a
oh
second.
yes, I can't.
That's
Man,
everybody
I can't wait
gains
for
weight.
Thanksgiving now.
You gain weight during Thanksgiving, man. It's like, come
Oh
on,
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
just too much
Oh
food to
yeah.
go around, but you get
There's
tired of
no for me. There's no watching my weight on Thanksgiving. Like those 3 or 4 days in between. Like yeah, that's I'm just pigging out. I'm having fun and doing it. There's yeah, definitely.
there you go. So if you wanna go ahead and send some gravy, Paul's way, for Thanksgiving, there you go. But Paul, where can they go ahead and follow you on the social media channels here?
Yeah, if you're on X or the old Twitter, it's at Paul Garcia NBA, and then of course, please visit the spotupshot.com. That's where my newsletter's at, and that's where you can find the podcast and the videos and all that kind of stuff. And I'm having a lot of fun, 2 or 3 months into this now, and I'm really enjoying covering the team again.
There you go. Congratulations, by the way, too, on the fresh start there. Looking forward to hearing more out of you and seeing more of your content out there. It's great stuff. So again, make sure you go and follow Paul, and also make sure you subscribe to his podcast because again, it's a great podcast. So that's about all the time we have for today's episode of the Area 210. It's a short one because we want to get back to being with our loved ones. Me and Paul are recording this a little late, so we're both wanting to eat a late dinner. That's why I
Yeah.
said I started talking about food at the end because I'm a little hungry myself. But for Paul Garcia, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you all for watching another episode of the Area 210 podcast. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out. Peace.